I'm not bad. I'm just drawn that way.
Houston, we have a problem.
But why name bodies?
Are you not entertained?
Why so serious?
It's alive! It's alive!
The snozberry tastes like snozberry.
Hello and welcome to Film Logic, a movie podcast about the movies of yesterday, today, and tomorrow, and all the fandoms in between. I'm your host, Mike, and I'm with...
Adam, your other host. What's going on?
What's going on, Texas, LA, New York, San Francisco? I think that sums it up.
Hey, shout out to our homies up in Vancouver and Toronto and Peterborough. We love you up there too.
Yes, all my friends from Etobicoke. Where you at?
Regina, shout out.
Yes, Nova Scotia.
Much love.
We're part of the Retro Logic Network, which is probably part of the Gaming Nintendo Dads Network, which is probably part of being bought by Elon Musk as we speak. Say no, guys. Yeah. Anyways, we're not just a podcast, but we are a wonderful group of Discordians who love to talk about movies and video games. So join us. The link will be in the chat.
For sure.
I like that. Discordians. Do people call it Discordians? Discordian.
Probably not.
No.
I'd probably just go with I use Discord. I don't know.
Yeah, patent pending.
Yeah, right, patent pending.
Yeah, you owe me a nickel if you say Discordian.
Man. Well, Michael, I think we gotta first and foremost, we gotta say thank you to a lot of people.
At least 18 thank yous.
Right, for participating in our online poll. If you guys want to be a part of future polls, you got to make sure you follow and you join us on the Retro Logic Discord, so then you can get and participate with a show like this. And shout out to everyone's responses. It was truly fascinating to see what people saw. And you were saying this before we started, Mike. I think, and I agree with you, I think it's almost more interesting to see what people picked and what didn't win.
Right. And just to even go back further, hey, this is our Summie's Award 2023.
Oh, yeah.
Where this is the first ever Summer Award show. Mm-hmm. The first show to not have any of the actors represented on it to accept the award.
So far. One of these days, we're gonna get someone. Someone is gonna finally come on. That's someone that's actually famous. No offense to anybody who's joined us in the past, but you guys just aren't famous enough for us.
Yes. I mean, I'm in talks with Harrison Ford, and he keeps giving me that grumpy old man grunt.
Are you sure that's not just your dad?
It could be. It is Harrison Ford's email mmordanga@gmail.com?
Maybe.
We'll see. Fallen for that again.
Oh man. But yeah, Mike, what are the Summies all about, man?
So I feel like summer movies don't get much love in terms of artistic representation. So I made up a bunch of categories, and you guys voted on it, and we're going to be doling out virtual awards to the winners, and also talking about why the losers lost. And the thing is, I think this summer has been crazy for movies. I don't remember 2022 being like this decent for like movie.
Oh, interesting.
Like we're talking about like some of these choices were really hard, and some of these choices like really fit into like dumb movie, like summer movie fun. And so maybe I'm just looking at this for the first time.
Right.
Like, this year represented what you think of when you think of summer blockbusters more than
Yeah.
any other year.
Interesting because I kind of think I have the opposite opinion. I think this summer kind of stunk it up. I think there were only like maybe two or three really kind of like outstanding movies that came out this summer, and
Mhm.
everything else kind of really blew it, especially at the box office.
Oh man. Well, blowing it at the box office is kind of the ID of a
I
summer movie. Um,
don't know. You think so?
well, it's summer kind of represents like the let's throw our dumb stuff, and we're gonna put all of our Oscar stuff in the winter. So we're gonna throw our cash, kind of our cash cows.
Interesting.
Yeah, and
Interesting.
there's but in this particular summer, there's no movie I'm thinking of. We all know what it is, that probably is going to show up at the Oscars,
I
and
think
that
there
is
is.
Jason Statham's role in Meg 2. Man.
I mean, that thing debuted at 0%. And yeah, I mean, I could definitely, I don't know. I definitely see your point there, Mike. But I
Hmm.
just pulled up the list of top lifetime grosses, and like
Hmm.
they're all summer blockbuster movies, right? Like Avatar, Avengers Endgame, Star Wars, The Force Awakens, Infinity War, No Way Home, Jurassic World. Like those are all summer movies to me. I guess to me, like the
Hmm.
summer, the summer movie blockbuster idea is that like, and I think a lot of the movies that came out this summer, which is why I maybe think that this summer was a bit of a bummer because a lot of these movies that companies were counting on to be big hits, things like Indiana Jones and
Hmm.
Elemental and
Yeah.
Mission Impossible, Fast and the Furious, The Flash, like these are all movies in the past that would have made, they were betting on those, approaching $1 billion, and you
Yeah.
know, there was only one movie that broke $1 billion this summer.
It's true. And maybe I'm thinking post pandemic,
Mm.
because 2021, I can't think of anything that really blew me away.
Did you like
Maybe
Top
like
Gun Maverick?
I didn't see it, so I can't speak to that. But
Mm.
that was last year's movie, right?
Yeah, 2022. Yep.
Yeah. Like maybe this is the first time I'm really looking and really analyzing the data. Because usually in summer I don't care about movies.
Mm.
I mean, I just pick whatever's available on Netflix. But but this year, like I've been like, I gotta see these. We're doing an episode based on them. So
Right? And maybe that's a part of it too, but I also
Mhm.
think that this is really the first summer post pandemic where people were finally like, "Oh yeah, let's go to the movies."
Mhm.
And I think that also consequently people are more choosy about what they go see at the theater. I think
Mhm.
before, like pre-pandemic, people were just, people were flocking to see, the
Mhm.
Avengers movie, the big old CGI fest. But or Transformers is always a reliable one people would go to see. But now it definitely feels like consumers are more picky, and I think that people are finally starting to realize that Fast X looks just as good on their 55-inch,
Right.
4K TV as it does in the theater, and they only really go when it's something like Oppenheimer or Barbie or
Yeah.
Spider-Man, where it's like an experience, it's a cultural event, and they're willing to spend money on that as opposed
Right.
to the fifth recycled sequel.
You know, this is probably like we're ushering in a new age for movies.
Mm.
What's that company that brings like operas to theater?
Oh, oh man, Fathom Events.
Fathom. I feel like Fathom is going to be like the new hype. And, because you're right, it's all about special events, things that have cultural meaning. And like, I envision like people going to Fathom events and like,
Mm.
you know,
Well,
the sequel to Barbie is like making $2, but they're
right.
all seeing like Waiting for Godot live from
Well,
Fathom.
well, I mean, I went to the movie. I've been to. I regularly go to the movies. I do a movie podcast. I love the movies.
Hmm.
Um, and I gotta say, maybe 30% of the time that I've gone to the movie theater this summer, I went to go see a reshowing of something else. Like I saw a reshowing of episode 4 of Star Wars. I saw Indiana Jones, the Raiders of the Lost Ark. I saw some Studio Ghibli stuff. I saw Howl's Moving Castle and some other stuff. And yeah, and every time I went to one of those movies, the theater was full, like packed.
Right. The data is there.
The data is there, and I think people are slowly starting to realize that they really the buying power that they have, right? And they
Yeah.
realize, I don't necessarily want to see Elemental when I could go see Incredibles back
Yeah.
in theaters at the end of the month.
Right. 3 months and Elementals will come to Disney Plus.
Right, and it's cheaper and easier, and there's no real incentive. But um, yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure. Yeah, I'm not sure what this holds for the future, but I definitely think this is a trend that we're gonna start seeing, especially when you really thought that certain things were going to be home runs
Yeah,
this year.
absolutely. And if you know anything about me, I bet on the horse that's the fattest and the smallest legs. So I already know that my movie tastes don't equate to what sells. But there is one movie in this list that Rotten Tomatoes agrees with me is amazing, and I'm surprised it didn't show up in our poll as much as I liked it to, and we'll get to that.
Mm-hmm. But
Yes.
yeah, should we dive right into this, Mike? What do we want
Well,
to get into first?
when I envisioned this episode, I thought we would have. I could at least tell you that I got around to saying Barbie.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I was with Barbie. I was with the entertaining direction and the humor
Mm.
through the whole movie. And I think everyone's trying to understand what is the story trying to tell in Barbie? Is it a parody based on how heroes treat women in movies? Is it a scathing criticism, Wake Up America type criticism? Or is it trying to show you that like both sides are for dummies, and there's a third option that's better? And I'm leaning towards that last answer because Greta Gerwig, like I kind of get what she's trying to show. If you haven't seen Barbie, there's like it's wonderful entertainment. It's quirky, it's funny, it's humorous, and I think Ryan Gosling steals the second half of the show.
Mm.
Hands down, he's amazing. I couldn't take my eyes off of him. Um, but I'm kind of stuck trying to figure out what's the moral of the story that they're trying to get you. Is it as
Sure.
obvious as the movie wants you to think? Like, because it kind of like sticks it in your face. But I almost think that's like a red herring. Like, that's not the true message. I think the true message was at the end when, spoilers, they found out it's not like a girls we rule the world. It's not the guys need to rule the world. It's you got to be true to yourself. Figure out who you are, and lean on your gifts, and just be awesome with your gifts, and don't worry about power and prestige and ruling things. I don't know. That's me on the soapbox.
Well, and I agree. I think the whole point of the movie is summed up in that sequence where Barbie is kind of talking through what it means to be human, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it is completely about discovering who you are and how you interact with the world and society and like what your place in it is, and um, how uh, how you and how you becoming more like yourself allows you to better see and to treat and to love the people around you. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think it's very easy um to get um stuck on the you know the you know the like the like you said, the red herring. But I
Mm-hmm.
think if you look at the movie like a just a coming of age story, but with the perspective of the fact that it's a movie made by women for women. Like
Mm-hmm.
its target audience isn't male centric. It wasn't. All of Greta Gerwig's movies are like
Mm-hmm.
when she made Lady Bird, when she did Little Women, when she does this, like the movie is made for women and with the perspective of being a woman. And I really do think that the point of the Barbie movie is that she treats all the female characters in it the same way that a male director make a movie, a coming of age story about a boy through a male perspective. It's just switched. So
Mm-hmm.
then when people say, "Oh, it feels like it's male bashing," or it feels like I wasn't represented, or I felt like I couldn't connect with the main character. That's how women feel when they watch movies, with a male centric point of view. And
Yeah.
I think of movies like the Breakfast Club, or maybe like Juno or Super Bad, right? Like those are all coming of age stories from a male perspective with female characters interspersed. But
Even Juno, isn't that about a pregnant teenager? I
yeah,
haven't seen it, so
but
I only saw
yeah,
the
but
trailer. So
I mean also also with Michael Cera.
yeah.
um but it's undoubtedly it's from the a male perspective. Um and I think that's where people are getting kind of tripped up on it. And you think about
Mm-hmm.
how um and really the biggest, I would say the biggest thing about Barbie is I think there are people that are out there trying to deliver a message, and they're saying that it's like, oh, it's hyper feminist, or it's like super anti male. And I would really disagree. I would say that it's more to your point, Mike. I think it's very true to
Mm-hmm.
this idea of exploring what it means to be human and what it is to bridge the gap between different perspectives. And these same people that are saying like, oh, this movie is like super feminist, they would also probably say, oh, I love Fight Club, or I love American Psycho, when
Yeah.
those in actuality are hyper feminist and anti male. And people just don't, they're not understanding what they're watching. And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I think at the end of the day, the TLDR for me is that the Barbie movie treats women the way that mainstream movies treat men. And whereas like men are the like the sole masters of destiny, right? They alone can like change fate, or they can change the outcome, they can change the world. Greta Gerwig does the same
Mm-hmm.
thing, but for women. And I love that, right? Like who doesn't love a coming of age story? And honestly, I think that there needs to be more stories from perspectives that I don't have, because I'm a male. I'm 30, and
Hmm.
I that's my perspective. I'm nerdy. I love video games and movies and things like that, and that's why I go to movies, right? So I can experience adventure. I can experience different experiences that I don't normally have, and I get to hear different people's stories and different people's perspectives. And the more diversity there is in those stories, the better my life becomes, because I'm more enriched and I get to understand and see life through a different lens.
Yeah. And I know the people that are angry, and I can
Mm,
understand, like, the preaching in the movie is heavy-handed.
mm,
And that's kind of what throws you off, is like, Greta is feeding you a sandwich of lectures, and you either agree with them and love them. And I think that's part of the red herring, is like, you think that the lectures are the end result, but they're
right,
not the end result. In fact, if you think of them as the end result, it kind of backfires on you, because
right,
um, Ken, in the second half of the movie, he is more interesting to watch, in my opinion, than Barbie. And so she had to have known that, like, the second half, at least comedically and entertaining wise, is going to him. So she was not. I don't think she was trying to say, "Who run the world, girls," you know, like that
no,
song suggests. I think she's trying to say, if you try to run the world, it sucks. If we try to run the world, it sucks. It just forces you to be not genuine.
mm,
If we run the world, it'll force you to be not genuine. If we do it, then it happens to you. Can't we just, honor each other's gifts and strengths and move on from there?
right.
So,
Right, and I think that's one of the things I most appreciate about a good movie, is when the director doesn't hold your hand for you to get to the point, right? Like if
right.
if Greta Gerwig made a movie, and if all you got from it is that it's male bashing and all this other stuff, then you saw what you wanted to see, and nothing will change your
Hmm.
mind about it, because you saw what you wanted to see. But that wasn't what the actual message was, and you have to really it rewards you for paying attention, and it rewards you for critically thinking, um and
Hmm.
I agree. I think it is uncomfortable. I think it's supposed to be uncomfortable, especially if you're watching it
Hmm.
from a point of view that's not your own. But I don't think that that makes it any less valid, right? Like if you go into a movie like Schindler's List and you're comfortable, then you're probably what the movie is. You're the intended audience, right? You're supposed to be made uncomfortable by seeing
Hmm.
a perspective and a truth that you might not have experienced, and it's uncomfortable. Like, I saw the movie with a bunch of friends. A lot of them were female, and they had, well, one had never. They said that they had never experienced or felt so seen by a movie before, that felt so true to their experience of the world, and
Hmm.
their experience of how culture views them and the pressures that they feel. And two, they love the message of motherhood and sisterhood, and what it means to, like, look out for each other and their feminine identity. And they love that. And then, third, they love the message of unity, really, at the end of the day. They love that,
Hmm.
that they were able to save the day without, without having to kill anybody, right? Like they,
Yeah.
um like Barbie and the other Barbies were able to save the world without having to, kill a single Ken. It was all done on their wits, um
Hmm.
and there was even, mercy and grace at the end, right? Their forgiveness there, and allowing them to come back. And I also think that that's a very feminine perspective, right? Like if this had been, the Avengers Endgame, right? Like And
Yes.
not saying that one is better than the other, but how great is it when you see Captain America with his broken shield and he's got Mjolnir and he just runs at Thanos and they beat the snot out of him. But that's like such a male centric way of solving problems, right? Hit it with a
Right.
giant hammer. Um, and yeah, like I don't know too many movies where the plot gets solved like that, where it's not solved by hitting a nail on the head with a hammer. Instead, it's
Right.
they solve it without violence, unless it's Alan kicking butt.
Right. I think they threw that in because they saw that Scott Pilgrim uh, was
Yeah.
was trending well.
Right, right. And I think it's even juxtaposed by the idea that the Barbies, they were able to solve their problem by going and voting and talking it out and making their voices heard. And the
Mhm.
Kens tried to solve their problems by having a beach fight.
Yes.
So, I mean, hey, read into it however you want to read into it.
Yes. And uh, that's why I think it's I am seeing this movie as
Mm,
hyper sarcasm
sure, definitely.
because if you take it at face value, some of that stuff doesn't add up. Like her
You're
views
missing
of
it.
males are like straight out of like that series Mad Men, and
Right.
you would think, well, man, hasn't she seen like the 007 movies where M just bosses 007 around? Um, but so I think that's more sarcasm. Like, show me a sarcastic world where like even the portrayal of Mattel is so sarcastic. Like
Mm.
Mattel really fell on their sword to tell this story.
Well, I mean, it's hard to argue with the $1 billion they grossed, but
Yeah, I know. Like,
you can say whatever you want about us if you make that kind of money.
it makes me think that like, okay, after this movie, we know because there's 18 other movie deals that Mattel got.
Yeah, it's
So
disgusting.
yeah,
It's
so right out of the bat, we know that that Mr. Potato Head's going to be about transgender rights. Polly Pocket's going to be about global warming.
right.
Because
Right.
they're
Well,
going to be like, these topics, they win us money.
well, it's so funny to me that like, these companies, these corporations, they just, they can't see the forest for the trees, right? They create a product and makes them so much money and they're like their first thought isn't how can we, improve on this? How can we make this better? It's how can we replicate this exactly to make more money in as cheap a way as possible? And they totally miss the point for the trees, right? The reason that
Mhm.
Barbie is good is because it's an original story, and it was created with incredibly imaginative, incredibly artistic, incredibly funny people. Same thing with the Mario movie, and they're like, okay, let's pump out sequels devoid of any of the magic that the original had, and they miss the point of what the original vision of the project was. Like I don't think that the way that the movie ended. I don't think Greta Gerwig sees a second Barbie movie, but Mattel is gonna make a second one anyways. And is Greta Gerwig gonna do it? I don't know. That's for her to
Mhm.
decide. But I don't think that she envisioned it as a trilogy that leads into a multiverse saga that leads into 15 spin-off TV shows. Like she was just like,
No,
this is a one-off vision, a one-off movie.
and that's
And
okay.
and
Yeah.
I think really that's the story of the summer. I think the movies, and really the story for the year, I think the movies that did the best and then were the most well received were movies that were original. And um
Hmm.
I think our poll shows that, but I also think that the movies that were bad this year as a whole also show that. And Yeah, I don't know where you wanna get into
Well,
now, Mike, but yeah,
I said my Barbie bit.
yeah.
All I know is I can't wait for Greta Gerwig's Hot Wheels movie, which I can't say with a straight face.
Oh man, that's incredible. I love that.
Yes.
Um, and if you're one of the few people that haven't seen it yet, and you're on the fence about seeing it, um, just watch it. Go in with an open
Hmm.
mind, and yeah, but I think most importantly, don't keep an open mind and watch it with an open mind. And
Hmm.
for those of you that are a big fan of Greta Gerwig, this is your first exposure to her. She's got a whole filmography that you should go check out. If you want to see more kind of like lady empowerment, go get them. Check out Lady Bird, check out Little Women, all incredible. But if you're excited for something new that's coming up, she's doing the live action Snow White. Um, yeah, definitely keep your eyes open for that. And Greta Gerwig is
Hmm.
definitely one of my favorite hot up and coming directors.
Yes. So, fun story that I just remembered. I read
Mm,
on a forum that some drive-in put Barbie. You know how drive-ins have two movies.
yeah,
Well, she put Barbie with The Sound of Freedom.
interesting.
Um,
Some people
and
would have to watch
yeah,
Barbie.
there was so many fights. Like there's the trucker guys making fun of the people dressed in pink, the people in pinks asking the trucker guys, "Aren't you the ones grooming these kids?" as
Right.
jokes. And the drive-in had to like say, "Okay, treat each other respectfully. Come on." And then they had to like discontinue those two movies being together because it became such a harassment problem.
Sure.
Yeah, so 2 points for humanity right there.
Oh boy.
Anyways, do 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 do. The Summies Awards 2023 with your guest, with your host,
Oh.
uh, Whoopi Goldberg.
What? Ah, what?
Come on, Adam, do the Whoopi Goldberg impersonation.
Uh, no thanks. I'll pass.
Okay, fine, fine. Welcome to our show. But let's just, we're going to build up
Mm.
to the best summer movie award.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, well, let's go to the bottom of the list.
Oh, I love this.
Yes. I love the idea that I can, and I'm so surprised that like this is not a category in more movie awards. Maybe it is like one of those Nickelodeon awards
Mm.
or People's Choice Awards, but I would love it if they made a Golden Globe based on best villain. And this
Yeah,
summer we got some nice villains.
we had some really good villains, and I really do think I'm the lone vote for Dante Reyes in Fast X. I did not see the movie, but just the amount of energy that Jason Momoa poured into that movie, and to own the screen every time you're on screen with that cast, and Jason Momoa is the best thing going for it. I
My
mean,
gosh.
you have to be the best villain of the summer, right? Like,
Hmm.
at least to me, given the context of the idea of best summer villain, like you want your villain to be camp, you want your villain to be outrageous, you want him to be
Echo.
charismatic, you want him to be devilishly handsome. You want Jason Momoa as Dante Reyes, but he only got 5% of the vote. So,
Right.
he didn't win. But to me, I mean, I understand, the three that got the biggest pieces of the pie. Um, because I really do think of those three, two of them really deserve it. But
The third one, people just love voting for.
right.
So,
Um,
yeah,
but yeah, no, to me, Dante Reyes is the reason, the spirit of the question. If that makes, he's
yeah.
the spirit of the law, not the letter of the law.
You know, and I completely agree. And the only reason I didn't vote for him is because
Mm,
I was fresh off of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem movie,
sure.
and I thought Ice Cube did a phenomenal job as Superfly.
Mm,
Just like this guy who's super chill, but at the same time, like hates humanity
right,
and somehow balances being like super chill. Like, I thought we were friends, let's hang. And then, like, I want to kill all humans. And
right.
he does it on such a, like, he's
He flips the
enjoyable to
switch.
watch,
Yeah.
you know. And I
Mm-hmm.
think a good villain is someone that you want to see. And you want to see them get as far as possibly as they can, but
Mm.
secretly you want them to be defeated at the same time. Now, to my knowledge, that is not what won the vote. Um, the what won the vote is someone you want to see defeated and you never want to see in real life ever.
Right. And I definitely think Dante Reyes and Superfly kind of occupy the same sort of sphere, right? Like
Yeah,
they're like they seem super cool, and then they like flip a switch and they just eat dinner with a decomposing body, right?
yeah.
That's it to me. But do we want to just get into the winner of the poll, and then I
So,
definitely want to talk to the two the two people that
so
tied for second.
let me go
Mm.
on what was on the list. So there's Ursula,
Yeah.
Little Mermaid,
Yeah.
Gabriel, Mission Impossible, High Evolutionary, Guardians of
Mm.
the Galaxy, Azad from Flash, Masculinity from Barbie, The Spot, Spider Man. That was tough. I either had to do Oscar Isaac's
Ooh,
role, but he
Predacons. Did
wasn't.
you say the Predacons?
Yeah, there's the Well, I'm talking about in Spider Man Across the
Oh,
Universe,
right.
Spider Verse.
Spider-Verse
You
spot.
get Oscar Isaac's,
Mm.
Spider Man 2099, or I think that's who it was,
Yeah.
and then you
I
get this
I mean
the Spot.
I mean, is he? This is a whole other rabbit trail, but I wouldn't even say that he's the villain. I think he's right. I think that this is might be a little controversial. I think Miles Morales is the bad guy. He's the antagonist, right? Like he is wrong. Like he's just objectively wrong, and like
He's wrong for wanting to
sacrificing.
save his dad.
He's wrong for wanting to sacrifice the entire universe to just save his one dad. I'm
Okay,
call me crazy, but maybe this is a discussion for another time. But I don't think Oscar Isaac is wrong here.
well, that's true, and I don't. I honestly don't think the sequel is going to make it down to those two options.
Mm,
I
for
think
sure.
they're gonna throw in some third option,
Right.
like time travel or something.
Right. And the whole thing about Spider-Man is, and Miles says it, right? Like it doesn't, it doesn't matter what the odds are, right? Like Spider-Man always comes through.
Mm-hmm.
And um yeah, I think that's interesting, and I mean, of course, that's the direction they're going with. But could you imagine if they keep that trajectory of Miles is just wrong, and he has to live with the consequences of being wrong. And I know that they could never do that. That would put butts in seats. That would make people very sad and disappointed. And that this isn't some French post like
Yeah,
postmodern black and white
yeah,
existential movie, but a boy can dream.
yeah. So instead, we have the Spot who goes from like a
Yeah,
quirky thief to like a hey, I'm going to destroy the universe.
right.
Um,
He stops being the flavor of the week, villain of the week.
yeah. Dante Reyes from Fast X, Predacons from Transformers: Rise of the Beasts,
Mm.
Megalodon from Meg 2, Superfly, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, and the Nazis in Oppenheimer and Dial of Destiny.
Are they the same? Are they
Are they the same Nazis? Historically,
maybe?
yes. Personally,
Sure.
no.
I love that they were bunched together. So, who won this, Mike? Who won
So,
the poll?
um, quite ironically, like when the internet votes that some animal's name should be Monkey McMonkey Face,
Right.
everyone, or at least 4 people, chose the Nazis.
Yeah, I mean,
They
that was
didn't have
the
speaking roles, to my
no.
knowledge.
I mean, they did in Dial of Destiny.
Yeah, they're more of a unit than they are a person.
Right, right.
Would you
Um,
say that the Nazis were like portrayed as awesome bad guys in Dial of Destiny, or were they more like a nuisance?
I mean, I would say that they definitely were. I mean, Mads Mikkelsen is the main antagonist, and I mean, his whole thing with the dial is that he wants to go back in time, and to not only help the Nazis, but he wants to replace Adolf Hitler because he thinks that Adolf doesn't go far enough. He thinks that he's not good enough. So he's next level Nazi. Um, yeah, I would say that I mean, given having if they had their way, I would think that they would be pretty devastating. And
Yeah,
at least in Oppenheimer, I would say the Nazis
they're always off
are
screen, aren't they? Like always
right.
talking about them.
Well, the idea and between that and I mean, they're definitely the villains, maybe for the first third of the movie, and then it
Mhm.
becomes this, the ghostly specter of communism, and then whatever that means. But really, I would say that the villains of Oppenheimer are us, right? Like that was the whole
Mhm.
point of the story, right? Like Oppenheimer, creates this device, and he's not going to live to see the consequences of his invention, and like the option of being of using it for good or for evil is in the hands outside of its inventors, right? It's like what the story of Frankenstein is, right?
Yeah.
Dr. Frankenstein creates this monster, and he has to struggle with the idea of like, what does it mean to create life, what does it mean to be human, and deal with the consequences of our actions. So I mean, I definitely think that that the Nazis are I would say that the Nazis are more of a villain in Dial of Destiny than they are in Oppenheimer, but yeah, I in a list of best villain, I mean, how can you go against the Nazis, right? Like
The
they're
internet's
always
begging you.
yeah, right. The Nazis are on the Mount Rushmore of villains, right? Like that's
Right.
it's
And
like it's the
yeah,
Nazis from like 1935 to 1945.
yeah,
The Russians from from 1980, or and then ambiguous Middle Eastern terrorist person, right? And
right.
then it's government or whatever sci-fi, right? Like
Yes.
those are the big four.
Yes. Yeah, and I think Dial of Destiny really like what's worse than bringing back Hitler? A guy who thinks he can do Hitler better.
Right, exactly.
And then
A
like,
guy
wow, that's wow.
it's like it's not even that the guy is like, oh, I think that Hitler was wrong. It's they're like, oh, I don't
Right.
think Hitler was fanatical enough. You're like, what?
Like you can't beat that. Like
Right.
uh
I mean, and that's why Mads Mikkelsen is perfect for the role. And I don't think that he's a Nazi. I'm not saying that, but
is he
I
a
am.
method actor
But
who became a
I
Nazi?
but I am saying he's incredible. I mean, Mads Mikkelsen is he's got to be one of the best villain actors of all time, right? Like he just has that like calm, calculated evilness down, right?
Yes, as one should. Uh, but anyways, let's talk about that was the winner.
Mm,
But some people think the Spot from Spider-Man Across the Universe
mm,
should have gotten it, and three people thought that the High Evolutionary from Guardians of the Galaxy
mm.
should have gotten it. And I have to say, I can see where you're coming from. The High Evolutionary. I didn't think the Spot was that menacing or had enough camera time to prove he was worth a good bad guy.
Yeah, I definitely think that he'll come into his own in in what's to come.
Hmm.
Um, but I mean, the High Evolutionary, um, he was just to me, uh, he just seemed like very starter pack bad guy, right?
The most evil pharmaceutical doctor you'll ever meet, pretty much.
Yeah, but like he's just like he's just like, oh yeah, he's a bad guy and he hurts animals and he doesn't treat people very kindly and he screams and he throws tantrums and you're just like, yeah, I mean, he's a bad guy, but
Yeah,
like he doesn't
yeah,
have he doesn't have any nuance.
yeah. In the business, we call it the guy you love to beat up, and that's what he was. Uh, what did you think
Mm.
of? I don't know. There's two people voted for Ursula, one person for the Predacons,
Mm.
and I was surprised that anyone would vote for anything that's related to Transformers because it just got so low ratings. But apparently, the Predacons made an impression on one person.
Yeah, somebody really liked it. Yeah, I I don't know. I will say though, I want to my last thought about the High Evolutionary. I do think that he had the hardest, coldest villain line of the summer though.
Yes,
There's a bit where he's just like screaming, "There is no God." That's why I had to step in. When I saw that in the movie theater, I was like, "That is megalomania on a scale that I cannot even comprehend."
Adam, I can envision your popcorn flying out as he's saying that.
I loved it. I mean, I'm a sucker
Mhm.
for a good villain. I think everyone is. Everyone really loves a villain,
Mhm.
right? That's why everyone there's a TV show for Loki now, right? Like
Yeah.
everyone loves the bad guy and every bad guy's got to have a line like that and whether it's, Ivan Drago and I will break you or
Hmm.
it's M Bison where he said and to me it was Tuesday. Like every villain needs a line and I think that maybe that's really why to me like the Nazis or
No line.
Spot kind of like yeah, they don't have a line. They kind of fall short and um
Yeah.
but yeah, I love the answers on this and um yeah, and I think that maybe if you had done this poll before the summer started and you asked these same people and you're like, who do you think will be, you know, uh, uh among the best bad guys this summer?
Hmm.
Um I mean, I think people would still vote for Nazis, but I really do think that more people would have said and been excited for Zod in Flash,
Hmm.
but especially with the original actor coming back, and I do feel like there was a bit of an energy around the movie as it came out, and
Yes.
people were just really devastated by how bad it was.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, so I think then that consequently you kind of see this flip, and I think that's why you don't really see anybody voting for Zod. And I would say that that's one of the things I think that movie really suffers from is that there's not a bad guy to
Right.
foil um the Flash and um yeah, I think that's a real shame.
Yeah. I just thought it was a stoner comedy. with some cool action scenes. But enough about that movie.
Yeah.
We'll be talking about that a few categories up.
Sure.
So, the best actress of the summer.
Ooh.
So, I think everyone can guess
Yeah.
who it's going to be.
Yeah.
And it's definitely not Scarlett Johansson from Asteroid City, though I have that on my list.
Yeah,
Let
I
me,
mean, I think she was great in that, but
yeah. Let me just go down the list of what we have to work with here. And I
Mm.
think this is a very strong list. And I actually
For
learned
sure.
a lot about new actresses that I really like because of this.
Mm.
So you have Holly Bailey, not Barry, of The Little Mermaid, Phoebe
Mm-hmm.
Waller-Bridge of Dial of Destiny, Leah
Yeah.
Lewis of Elemental, Sasha Kelly from Flash, Rosario Dawson, Haunted Mansion, Haley Steinfeld, Spider-Verse, Michelle Rodriguez, Fast X, Ayo Edebiri, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, Haley Atwell, Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning, Karen Gillian, Guardians of the Galaxy, Emily Blunt, Oppenheimer, Scarlett Johansson, Asteroid City, and Margot Robbie, Barbie. So, as I was saying,
Mm.
those are all our runner-ups for Best Actress of the Summer.
Yeah. Yeah, I really do think that this summer, obviously with Barbie and Margot Robbie, but it really does feel like a summer of a lot of really solid leading ladies and supporting and actresses in supporting roles that really kind of stole the screen. I think Karen Gillian as Nova really won people over. Haley Steinfeld, always wonderful, is great as Gwen. Um, I love Phoebe Waller-Bridge in Dial of Destiny. I really do think that she nailed her role really perfectly. And frankly, if Emily Blunt doesn't at least get nominated for Best Supporting Actor, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself because she was incredible in Oppenheimer. She owned it every time she was on screen. She was brilliant.
Yeah, I feel like this is the year we're going to have a lot of people's summer works is what's going to get them into the Oscars. I mean, Robert Downey Jr.,
Mm.
people are saying that's going to be Best Supporting Actor. Margot Robbie, if she doesn't get Best Actress nominated, people
Yeah, I
are
don't
going
know
to
what's
riot.
right. I feel like you could nominate the entirety of the Oppenheimer cast as for Best Supporting Actor. It was just, yeah, it's great stuff. But Best Female Actress, yeah, this one was very predictable. I think,
Yeah,
I think, Runaway was Margot Robbie with almost 50% of the vote. I didn't mean to spoil it, Mike, but
I
I
know,
mean,
I know.
you
But,
were thinking it, I was thinking it, the audience was thinking it.
and I have to say, as great as Margot Robbie is in the DC universe, and we all love her as, Harley. She's the one person that they keep asking her to come back if there's a Harley in the future. But I'm not crazy about her energy. It's not my go-to product. So
Well, I mean,
I'm
how did you feel about her in Barbie? Because I think her in that project is very different than her in other projects.
so yeah,
I have a,
100%. She
I have a,
is
I have a
Barbie, and
theory.
they nailed
Hmm.
it. Like
Hmm.
a million and 10%. You couldn't
Sure.
think of another person to be Barbie, and yeah, she's not as loud and obnoxious as she is in other movies, which was definitely appreciated. Um, though I feel like the second half of her movie, as I stated earlier, she kind of like falls off. She kind of just becomes mopey, and it's like it's Ken's job to kind of pick up the movie in the second half, which he does excellently. So she wasn't my favorite part of the Barbie movie, ironically.
Interesting.
And so I think she does an excellent job as Barbie, but she wasn't my favorite part of the Barbie movie, which is a problem when you have a movie called Barbie. And
Interesting. Hmm.
I think Karen Gillian was a total treat in Guardians of the Galaxy. Her, like, just knowing the actress as a whole, being a former Doctor Who um, watcher, knowing that actress is actually kind of like peppy and bubbly, and then just seeing her act like a total, uh, you know, grumpy person as Nebula, really is enjoyable. I think anything that has Karen Gillian, like, it always perks my attention because I just think she's a great energy on the stage.
Mm. Yeah, for sure. And I definitely think the opinion and the critique of her character as Nova previously has been that she was just kind of one dimensional and she didn't really bring anything.
Yeah.
But since with considering the Christmas special and with this, it really does feel like she's finally given some license to kind of fully explore what the character means and to give the character some real life. And yeah, I think she did really
Mhm.
great. And yeah, and I think I have to disagree with you about Margot Robbie in the Barbie movie. She was like, I don't know. To me, it felt like she just stole every scene that she was in. Um, to me,
True. I mean, her name's on the title, so she would have.
and not even just that. I think her delivery and her the emotion that I think that she brought to the character and the role, I think is was incredible. And at least for me, I think part of it was this idea that she was kind of finally in a role where it wasn't about how, and stay you gotta stay with me, but like obviously she was casted as Barbie because of
Hmm.
how she looks, but that wasn't the reason that Greta Gerwig selected her to play Barbie. Because to
Okay.
me, I don't think that there's another actress that could play in the emotional and the comedic space that Barbie had in that movie other than Margot Robbie. And I think for a lot of Margot Robbie's career, um, male directors have typecasted her as this almost like beautiful goddess Aphrodite kind of
Hmm.
temptress character, like in Wolf of Wall Street, Suicide Squad, Babylon, and
Someone you'd
Once
like
Upon
to
a Time in,
cosplay as.
right,
Right.
a centerfold. Um, but who she is as when she's casted in movies like I, Tanya, or when she's in movies like Bombshell or Barbie, where she's able to just be an actress based on her talent, um, the role looks totally different. She's totally a different person, and I think that was part of Greta Gerwig's goal with this movie and Margot Robbie's role as executive producer on this is like she now is fully occupied a space that is totally different from her other roles. And ironically enough, her playing Barbie almost is like going against type because she's not playing, she wasn't selected to play Barbie just because she's beautiful. She was selected to play Barbie because of her talent, because of who she is as an actress. And the looks are secondary to that, but that wasn't the primary reason that she got the
Hmm.
role, right? You can't tell me, and I'm sure that for a part of it, for for a movie like Wolf of Wall Street, of course I don't want to downplay the fact
Hmm.
that Margot Robbie was incredibly talented and Martin
Right.
Scorsese saw that. But it was she would definitely it was in the role that she had was because of her beauty. And um And I think that in the Barbie movie, her beauty is a part of who Barbie is, but it's not the reason that Barbie is a character, and it's not what Greta Gerwig is weaponizing to the
Right.
audience. Instead, it's Barbie is a human, and she's trying to figure out what it means to be human, and her beauty is a part of that, but it's not her defining feature. Her defining feature is that she's different, and that she thinks differently, and that she gets sad, and she has cellulite, and she thinks about
Mhm.
death sometimes. Like that's who she is, not that she's daddy's little monster with a choker and has suspicious rips on a t-shirt, right? Like that's
Yeah.
um so to
Mhm.
me, I think that's why I think that she deserves, the best actress of the summer, because to me she really takes a role and elevates it. And I think that all the wonderful ladies on this
Mhm.
list are incredible and wonderful and do a really great job.
They'd
But
make
I
one
don't
heck of an Ocean's 13.
but I don't know if any of these other actresses could have done as good of a job as Margot Robbie does in Barbie.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
and
how much
Mhm.
can we attribute that to Greta Gerwig's coaching and getting whoever she chose into a vision? I mean, we're living in a new time. I like to
Mm.
think what Barbie would look like in 2013. It would probably have Jennifer Lawrence, and it would probably be a lot less of a thinker movie. So
Sure.
yeah, like I agree. Margot Robbie she's very good at nailing um, the character that you give her, but she has like a certain energy, and you either have to like that energy, um, or you have to just be like, oh, like it's not. It's she's never horrible. Like, ugh, get her away. But it's she has that energy.
Sure.
It's like people who like uh, buffalo wing pizza. It's never horrible pizza, but some people love it and some people just like it.
Sure. I mean, I don't think I'm fully picking up what you're putting down,
Well,
but
I'm just saying. She, darn it, everyone's right. She is very enjoyable in this movie. It's not
mm,
my favorite enjoyable.
sure, sure.
And my argument. So this is my
Mm,
argument that no one's ever gonna catch up with me. But I had to look this person up. The person who
sure.
plays April O'Neil in
Mm,
Mutant Mayhem, Ayo Edebiri.
yeah.
She does such a phenomenal job. Like her one-line jokes and her way of explaining things. And I know they were trying to give you that. They were trying to give you that sassy vision that Spider Verse kind of gave you. But
Mhm.
she did such an awesome job that there was a point in this movie that was like, if it's just her interacting with the Ninja Turtles and there's no more fight scenes, I would actually be okay with that. And I think it's her voice work. Like, I mean, her voice work and the character that they animated with her worked really well together.
Sure.
So I can't give her 100% of the credit because it's about the facial recognition of the animators. But I enjoyed the crap out of Ayo Adabiri, and she's part of the reason why I think the movie did so well.
Sure, sure. No, I,
Mhm.
I I totally agree. I think the cast and the animation studio, which is also in part worked on Spider-Man,
Right.
um, um, they put in some serious work this summer. But yeah, no, I think that that whole project um is incredible. I think that the direction and the decision to kind of cast the turtles as relatively unknown teenagers,
Hmm.
and really using these adult actors as in supporting roles, I think is awesome, and a really great direction. And
Right. Like
um I think
I've
it's really
seen the
exciting.
plays at my high school. High schoolers can't act. Like there's a reason why those tickets are only $8 a piece.
Sure.
But these guys, they refueled my faith in teenagers in movies.
Mm. No, for sure. And
Hmm.
I like don't get me wrong, like I'm a massive Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan. I love it.
Hmm.
Give me Bebop and Rocksteady all day, every day. Give me,
John Cena and Seth Rogen.
right? And I mean, heck, my middle name is one of the Ninja Turtles.
Right.
Um, but I I love the direction that they're going with this movie, but maybe this is part of the reason that I'm really excited for the Last Ronin video game is because I know that the source material and other stuff is like much more adult and more serious, and they deal with like other
Mhm.
more adult problems and story motifs and plots. And I feel like we just haven't really gotten that in the mainstream. So I'm looking forward to, I mean, like, don't get me wrong. I think this movie is incredible, and I
Yeah.
love that and it deserves every bit of success that it's getting.
Mhm.
Um, but I'm still waiting for, I want some Dark Ninja Turtles.
Right. You want them all to wear red bandanas and to cut through human flesh.
Right. I'm tired of them always fighting robots.
Right. And I hear you. I hear you. But I have to say, when No Diggity plays in the background and you see the montage of fight scenes in different bars,
Yeah.
uh, goose flesh. But we're talking about female actresses
Yeah,
here.
female actresses. We're getting into it, and I I had a point that I was getting to, and we got a little sidetracked. But I agree. I think Io was Io. I don't know how to say her name.
I Edibiri.
Um, yeah, I think she yeah, I think that she definitely owns the space whenever she's there, and I think that's so great because I think partially like when you think of these kind of nerdy superheroes
Right.
movies, a lot of these ladies don't necessarily get the time to shine or the respect they deserve. And I love that Karen Gillian and, Haley Steinfeld and, these actresses are all getting, their time in the spotlight and well deserved. I mean, they killed it this summer. And if I could give an award to all of them, I would.
Right. Like I'm telling you, this would make one heck of a Ocean's 13.
Right.
Right. Speaking of Ocean's 13, no, not really. Let's talk about Best Actor of the Summer. Um,
This
now,
one was interesting to me. I'm surprised that this was as mixed as it is.
well, the most interesting thing is Best Actress of the Summer and Best Actor of the Summer all connected to the DC universe. So,
Yeah, by like third degree,
yeah, like
seven
cousins.
degrees. Yeah.
Here's who we have. Now, I made a political choice not to put in He Who Shall Not Be Named for the Flash, but instead I put in Michael Keaton. Um, Jordan Can for Elemental, Jason Momoa, Fast X. Sorry, Vin
Mm.
Diesel. Yeah, you didn't make it. Chris Pratt, Guardians of the Galaxy. Jason Schwartzman, Asteroid City. Harrison.
And he was Spot, right?
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah, I think so. Harrison Ford, Dial of Destiny. Jason Statham, Mega 2. Ice Cube, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Shamik Moore, Across the Spider Verse. Anthony Ramos, Transformers. Ryan Gosling, Barbie. Cillian Murphy, Oppenheimer. Tom Cruise, Mission Impossible.
Mm.
So there seems to be like a fight, at least on this list, between
Sure.
Spider-Man Across the Universe, Spider-Verse, and Oppenheimer. I guess it might be a three-way brawl if Barbie's involved.
Sure.
But it's interesting to see that people are struggling between those two movies,
Right. Well,
or one nails it and the other one is like, I like it here, but not here.
yeah, I think it's interesting to me how close it is. So like Cillian Murphy won, but with only 23% of the vote, and the fact that Tom Cruise got 2 votes, Michael Keaton, who was a supporting actor and
Yeah,
wasn't really in the movie, got
not
2
that long.
votes,
Yeah.
and Chris Pratt got 2 votes, and Ryan Gosling got 2 votes. While Cillian Murphy probably gave the performance of a lifetime and is probably gonna win, Best Actor, at least get nominated for it. Only got 4 is really interesting to me.
Well,
And the closest one was Shamik Moore for playing
hmm
um in Across the Spider Verse. But to me, he was the weakest. I think in out of all of the characters, like all the actors,
hmm
I wasn't very impressed with um his character. I really do think that he was outshined in every scene that he was in by everybody else. So I mean, I don't know. What do you think, Mike?
Well, I have my hangups about the new Spider-Man movie, um, because it's the directors that did the Lego movies were behind it, and the new Spider-Man movie is less Lego movie inspired, less silly, and more like everything is dark. Everything is horrible when you're part of the Spider-Verse. Um, so I struggled with that, um, but I think you're right. I think Shamik Moore didn't do anything to make himself stand out. I mean, he has that one line that's in the trailer. I'm sick of everyone telling me who I have to be. I'm going to do my own thing, which kind of is cool.
Yeah, no, it's
But
great.
other than that, like, I can't remember anything else. He's more like reactive to like other actors that talk to
Right,
him in his movies.
right, for sure.
He doesn't
And
monologue.
right. And I don't know if it's any necessarily monologues. It's just I don't know. I just didn't find his um I just didn't find him as charismatic, I think, as some of the other characters. Like Oscar Isaac, every time his character's on screen and he talks, you listen, right? Like
Yeah,
he's there. Like the minute that Peter B. Parker is on the screen, you're just like, oh, this guy's way funnier.
you're right.
Um or you listen and you're just like, I don't know. Spider Gwen is definitely way more angsty and is dealing with more real
Right.
serious problems. And
I think she
um,
outacted him, and I'm sorry we didn't bring her up.
oh
I
yeah,
think we could have stayed in Best Actress, but
yeah, forever. I mean, Haley Seinfeld. I mean, she killed it, and I love her as an actor. I think she's really great. I love that she's in 2 different Marvel projects. Um, I also love that she was in Bumblebee. And I just really enjoy her as an actress, and I hope that she has all the success that she deserves because she's been killing it. But and I think that being said, she definitely acts the pants off Shamik Moore in
yeah,
Across the Spider Verse, which is why to me it's so baffling that Cillian Murphy only doesn't even break 30% because really to me this is the performance of a lifetime for him. Like this is
you know, I
I
have a
don't see how he doesn't
feeling
win the Oscar.
that maybe not directly, but mentally, some of our voters might have been like, "Yeah, I really like Mission Impossible. Therefore, Tom Cruise did the best work." Guardians of the
Sure.
Galaxy, man, I love that series. Therefore, Chris Pratt. Um,
Sure,
I
sure.
could have written Dave Batista, and I think that we'd still get the same results.
Mm.
2 votes. So I think maybe I'm not judging anyone because I probably did the same thing. But they're like, "Ooh, I really liked that movie. Therefore, the actor maybe did a great job."
They maybe did a nice job.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, no, to me, and I mean, I guess maybe we can move on after this unless you have some closing thoughts. Um, I think Ryan Gosling was really great. I think he nailed his role as Ken, and
his
he better
song, his
get
song alone was amazing.
Billboard chart.
Mhm.
Yeah, if he doesn't get a best supporting actor nod, I think there'll be riots in the street. I think he absolutely nailed it. He was so charismatic, and yeah, he's definitely very dumb and very funny,
Mhm.
and I think he's really great. But man, I I cannot say enough about Cillian Murphy as Oppenheimer. You just you feel the weight of his anxiety and his worry and his tortured genius every time he kind of like shakily takes a draw of a cigarette and looks off into the middle distance. And it's yeah, like the performance that he turns in, I mean, is just, I mean, it's generational. And um
Mhm.
and maybe this is a point we can explore at the end of all these pie charts. But no offense to people, to our friends that voted, but I think this is generally why I don't have a whole lot of stock in the audience score on a lot of things, because I think that the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, or other
Oh,
review
really?
aggregate sites, like, I'm just like, yeah, I just generally don't agree with a lot of opinions, because you have things like this where you're like, oh yeah, like Chris Pratt, in Guardians of the Galaxy 3, like was a better actor than Cillian Murphy in Oppenheimer. I'm like, that's just not true. Like,
Well,
that's not even close.
if we're talking about like what made you smile, what made you laugh, I can totally respect that. Like if we're talking about what deserves like an opera award, yeah, Cillian Murphy all the way. But like Chris Pratt, he did a great job as like a depressed drunk in the beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy, and his redemption story was really fun. So I can see where those two voters kind of were really into that.
Mm. Yeah, but
Um,
I mean, would you say that that's best? You know what I mean? Like, what does best mean? I guess that's really what the question.
well,
My
yeah.
question is, like, what do you think is best? Right? Like,
Well, we're also assuming that everyone saw all these movies and can
that's true.
compare. So
That's true.
maybe the two people that voted for Guardians of the Galaxy saw
Didn't see
that and maybe
Oppenheimer.
Haunted Mansion.
Right. Right.
And or maybe they saw all the movies and they were just like
Sure.
they're super into Chris Pratt, which is cool. You
Right.
know,
Right.
he makes millions for a reason. Uh, you know,
No, for sure.
the one thing I have a beef with is that like now that I'm seeing that we have cartoons are so hard to give to an actor because half of their character is a drawing made by an
Mm,
artist.
sure.
So is it all on their voice if you really like the facial recognition? I mean, if it's I don't think it was rotoscoped. Is that the term where you take a picture and draw over it?
Yeah.
Maybe it was, but
Yeah. No, I mean, um I think that's a part of it. I think the collaboration effort in animation is really important, right? I think that's why the studios that are doing things like Across the Spider Verse and Humanity are having so much success, because the both arts are influencing each other, and they're
right.
supporting each other. Whereas, like, we got some pretty bad CGI, like in Quantum Mania, where you're just like, oh yeah, the actors and the animators are definitely at odds, and it's the studio's fault, and you can just tell.
And we're about to go into the next one, which is
Yeah.
all the studio's fault. So, unless you have any strong opinions on Jason Statham, or
No, I mean, I think it's yeah, it's just wild to me that I think some of the votes, and I think it's totally valid, Mike. I agree with what you said about maybe not everyone saw the movie, every
Mhm.
single movie, all the movies, but yeah, to me, I think objectively, it's just Cillian Murphy
Yeah.
all the way.
Well, there's so many things to vote on. Like,
Mm,
some people when they cry through a movie or they feel uncomfortable in a movie, they equate it like that was bad,
Yeah,
you know. And I doubt there were people giggling through Oppenheimer.
sure.
So,
Sure, and I mean, I think that's also partially what plays into me not having a whole lot of trust in audience scores because
mhm.
I think a lot of people vote subjectively, and that's totally fine. Like I totally respect your individual right to having an opinion and how much you enjoyed. Like I would never take it away if someone was like, I really enjoyed the Meg too. I'm like, well, I mean, I know that I probably wouldn't enjoy watching the Meg too, but I'm glad that you enjoyed it. Um, but I think then where I kind of have a problem is when people try to use, we'll like say we'll use the subjective opinion and be like, okay, well, is this within like an objective reality, And yeah, I
Yeah,
think that's what makes movies so fun, right? Like we get to have discussions like this.
yeah.
And speaking of subjective opinions, let's talk about the most disappointing movie of the summer.
So this when I like how I phrased it. Most disappointing movie
Mm,
suggests that you had some kind of hype, some kind of hope that it would be
sure.
good, and then it crushed your dreams. So
Mm,
we're looking when we look at this pie chart, we're looking at crushed dreams,
sure,
in a
absolutely.
and it's really a good mix of crushed dreams on here. Um,
Yeah, I think I have some votes that I understand and some that I just don't.
so there's the Haunted Mansion, The Little Mermaid, Asteroid City, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Indiana Jones, Elementals, Transformers, Rise of the Beast, The Flash, Meg 2, Barbie, Oppenheimer, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Fast X, Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning. So part of this is I think some people kind of came in with expectations that it was going to be one thing and then found out it was going to be another thing.
Mm,
You know, like so we have a lot of 11.8%. Like we have a
yeah.
four-way tie
Mm,
for second place, and that's two people thought Indiana Jones was disappointing, two people thought The Little Mermaid was disappointing, two people thought The Haunted Mansion was disappointing, and two people thought Barbie was disappointing.
mm,
And I kind of understand maybe the two people um, that thought Barbie was disappointing were put off by like the
interesting.
message.
Interesting.
The Haunted Mansion. I don't know anyone who was getting hyped up about that
Yeah,
movie.
that's one that was puzzling to me. Like one of the things that
It's
I'm
based
puzzled
on a
about.
ride.
Right, like I don't know, if you had really high expectations going into that movie, I don't know if I can help you.
Maybe there was like an actor they really liked, and they're like, "This guy can't fail," and then he failed, and
Right, and
or he
I mean,
couldn't carry the movie.
right, but what's also interesting to me is that like the movie has been pretty well received, and I think that people are like, "Oh, this exceeded expectations." So to me, it's like were people going into this movie expecting like I don't know, like South by Southwest or sorry, North by Northwest? Why did I say Southwest?
You're
Northwest.
thinking of the airline.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Or or were they expecting, Vertigo or Psycho? Like what, whatever Hitchcock movie you want to throw
Or
in here, like
are they thinking of it like as the Eddie Murphy version, like the one that came
right,
out early 2000s, like that
right,
one?
and that one that's kind of like the one that's universally panned, like
Yeah, like it even made a horrible GameCube game.
right,
Um, well,
and mm,
Haunted Mansion kind of got 39% on Rotten Tomatoes. So,
which one?
um,
The new one?
yeah, the new one.
Really?
So, yeah,
That's
but the
crazy.
Eddie Murphy version got 13%. So at least
Yeah,
it's an
right,
improvement.
right. That's funny.
And I just don't think there was a lot of meat on that bone, and
Right, right,
because it's based on a ride, and the ride is based on a trope,
right,
which is based on better movies doing that trope.
right, right. And at least to me, like the other movies that are tied with it, like Indiana Jones and The Little Mermaid, at least those kind of had like hype to it, right? Like the idea that like Little Mermaid was, a live action Disney movie. It
Mhm.
did feel like a lot of money was poured into it. Same thing with Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones kind of had the vibe of this, this is Harrison Ford's last ride, before he hangs up the fedora and the whip. And I can understand why you would go into that movie having some level of excitement and then being disappointed. But to me, like the Haunted Mansion, I'm just like, I don't know. Like I don't know what more I can do for you. Like I can also understand. So like Elementals got one vote. Like I would be more understanding if more people were disappointed with Elementals than with Haunted Mansion, because it's like, to me it's like you were surprised that you were disappointed in the food you got from Arby's. It's like you went to Arby's. What did you expect?
Right. Yeah. And as I'm looking up these reviews, I I see that Sharknado came back for its 10th anniversary, and that got a 70%, but the audience gave it a 30%. So,
Well, and to me, like I guess for stuff like that, which is just crazy to me, but it's the expectations, right? And
mhm.
what people are holding going into it. And um yeah, I mean, I don't know, do you have anything else that you want to kind of go over? I mean,
Well,
the Flash one, I think that was
yeah,
kind of expected. I mean, I think everyone was disappointed.
yeah. I didn't walk out of that movie hating it. I walked
Right.
out of it kind of confused
Yeah.
because it didn't set out what it was supposed to do. It didn't give me any closure.
Right.
It it just kind of was a hodgepodge of some really great ideas in a stoner comedy script.
Right. And at least with like all the other ones, what I could say have going for it is their director didn't say this is one of the greatest superhero scripts I've ever read. This, right?
Right.
Like to me, to be disappointing, you have to have expectations. And when you have this is the greatest superhero script ever, and you get the Flash. I mean, even if the Flash was, a 7 out of 10, that's still really far from great. That's still short of The Dark Knight.
Right. And I know Rotten Tomatoes kind of just squeaked by with a 64%. So people didn't hate it overall,
Right.
but I can definitely understand. Ooh, the audience gave it 83%.
See,
I,
that's what I'm saying.
yeah. Well, you pick one and you agree with it.
Sure, sure.
I think 64% is a good, like, it's not
Yeah,
a foul, but you passed by like an inch.
right. And I think that that's another thing that um people are really confused about when they talk about movies. So I think when people say, "Oh, the movie was bad," it was like a 7 out of 10. I'm like, what do you mean? Like 7 out of 10 is good. I mean,
Yeah.
like
It had to
like seven
beat
out of 10.
seven numbers.
Right? Like most of the Marvel movies are to me like the definition of a 6.5, 7 out of 10. That's good. Like most movies aren't a 7 out of 10.
Hmm.
Um, 7 is still above average. Like and that's really funny to me. Like like movies, movies that are, but then people will say like, oh, this is like the worst, the worst thing, ever. But
Yeah.
really, you gotta temper expectations, people. You gotta understand it's a sliding scale, man. A 7 out of 10 means that there are still three other percentage, like 3 points until perfection. Like that's not bad.
Right. Right. And then that's how I feel about like Blue Beetle's coming out. I don't think it's gonna tank and be horrible. I just think it's gonna be super mid.
Yeah, like
You know?
yeah, so I'm seeing it, I think this upcoming Thursday. My friend invited me out. And I really want this movie to be good. I mean, I love the cast. I think I love the
Yeah.
awesome, Hispanic, Mexican, Latino, Latina representation there. I think it's a real who's who. And I love the lead actor. I think he's great. I really hope he stays in that role. I love his energy. And it's the director's first really big break, and it
Hmm.
just thinks that the studio isn't falling behind it for whatever reason, right? Like, it just feels like everything about this movie should be a home run, except the studio just for whatever reason doesn't believe in them, and that's so sad to me.
Right. The way they're marketing this makes it seem like, just get your movie done with.
Right? And I
Yeah.
I really hope it's gonna be good. And
Hmm.
and what's even crazy is I agree. I think it's gonna be like a 7, 6.5, 6 out of 10. And but like that's to the studio, that's enough to get it canceled, and to it never coming back, and
Right.
that's so devastating to me.
I mean, I hear that director really wanted a Bane script. So he
Mm,
might not even have his full heart into it either,
right,
knowing that he got shut down and was given something else. But we'll see.
right.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, in 2 weeks, you're going to be like, Mike, we need to redo the awards. Blue Beetle down the line, best actor, best actress. Cillian
I
Murphy looks like crap compared to Zolo.
yeah, I really do hope that I'm wrong. I mean,
Yeah.
this kid, the actor, I think he's so great in the Karate Kid TV show. Um, yeah, I think he's incredibly talented, and I really think he has a future ahead of him, and I hope that this movie doesn't, take that away from him.
Absolutely. Speaking of things being taken away, best action, best fight scene.
Man,
So,
I'm devastated uh
Oppenheimer.
that that John Wick 4 wasn't even an option.
Well, didn't that come out in January? I mean, if it was
I
the January awards, absolutely.
I know, but we had it on something else, didn't we?
We had it in May. Like, I made the cutoff May.
Well, no, I thought we had John Wick 4 for something.
If we did, that's a mistake.
No, no, you're right. You're right.
Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of things I think I was kicking myself that we couldn't put in.
Yeah,
And
that's fair.
there's people were saying you should have put in this movie. And I'm like, yes, if I wanted to do this episode in September, that would make sense. But,
We're doing summer movies.
yeah.
You're right.
So, first of all, I haven't seen Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, but three people thought those action scenes were amazing.
Right. I
Um,
mean, just on, Tom Cruise's dedication alone,
yeah,
you got to put it in. But I mean, to me, it just makes sense across the Spider-Verse. I mean, the animation was beautiful. I will say, Indiana Jones, the set pieces, the action set pieces on it they're incredible. There's a sequence where they're on this Nazi gold train, and it's incredible.
yeah, as it should be. Yeah, summer is the time where you bring out your best fight scenes. Like you get your highest paid stunt doubles and choreographers.
Mm,
Um, but in this case, 47.1%, 8 voters said Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse had the best fights. Now,
yeah.
my question is that because of the animation filters that were used, or is it because of the actual fighting?
I mean, I guess it depends on if you what are you looking for? Like, if you want realism, I guess you got to go with like Mission Impossible, but like Guardians of the Galaxy, like the best action sequences were all CGI. So, I mean,
It's true.
I
And
mean, what is
I kind of
mm,
struggled with this one because I think personally I gave it to Guardians of the Galaxy
mm,
just because of I had to give it to at least actors running around in green suits.
Sure.
Um, or maybe I did give it to Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, but I know part of that reason that the fight scenes are so good because of the animation style. Um, but
Yeah. No.
that's valid. I
Yeah.
mean, if you drew a great picture, then you deserve to have good fight scenes.
No, I totally agree, and I think that's why I am so mad about the John Wick 4 thing because to your point, Mike, I think that it's one of the. I mean, of course, it's exaggerated, but to me, it's one of those last kind of action movies. I mean, along with Mission Impossible, where they're doing a lot of their own real, practical effects stunts, and those are real martial arts. Those are real, gun handling techniques, and what is real? What is best? Is it just the animation, like you were saying, or is it, you know, is it?
Is
Are
it the
there
actor
actors
putting
running
his
around?
life on the line
Right, right,
or learning a new skill? Yeah,
right.
like Viggo Mortensen had to learn guitar, or not guitar, sword.
He had to learn guitar to play
Erica.
Aragorn.
Oh, one can
uh,
dream.
um, he's just like a bard. Um, yeah, no, I totally get where you're coming from, but I will go to bat and say that for animation and action, to me, like I think the two go hand in hand. Whenever I think of some of the greatest animation, or when I think some of the greatest action sequences in TV and movies, I always go to anime and
Hmm.
animation. I think of Akira, Ghost in the Shell. I think of Attack on Titan. I think of Demon Slayer, Dragon Ball Z. Or you even want to go into stuff like Howl's Moving Castle and Nausicaa of the Valley, One Punch
Hmm.
Man. I think that those are all incredible examples of animation, animating, drawing, and bringing it to real life. And yeah, so I love I love animated action. I think it's super cool, and I think Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles also gets should get a share of that too. I think
Right.
um it 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 just flows nice, and
Absolutely.
I think you
Mhm.
can also tell the difference between bad fighting animation and good fighting animation more easily than you could tell bad live action, and um like you can fake uh like live action easier than you can fake animation, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's not just the actors. The cameraman is as responsible for a good action scene
Right,
as any of the people on the set.
right, right, for sure.
Yeah. So,
Okay. Mm.
yeah.
Speaking of visual effects.
Yes. Okay. So, best visual effects. I haven't been going over the nominations, but you people should know by now that what we've been talking about
Mm-hmm.
has
Just
been,
spinning it up a bit.
yeah. Just imagine Asteroid City has been in all of these nominations too, and Elementals have been in some of them. Visual effects. So, everyone kind of came to the table and agreed. Well, 9 people out of 18 responses said that Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse has the best visual effects, and I can see that. I can definitely see that from point A to point Z. That movie had so many filters, styles, smooth actions, and to think that these were the people that made the Lego movies. Who knew that Lego animators were so amazing?
Well, I mean, I still think that the animation in those Lego movies are like that's some next level stuff. They really.
Yeah,
I mean, that's so hard to be able to animate something to look like it's stop motion. Like
right.
that's some dedication. And um I also I gotta take some uh some frustration here with Oppenheimer getting 3 votes. What the whole thing is practical. What there's no CGI involved. They did
Mhm.
everything practical.
Those are the
Um,
people that didn't see the making of the movie featurettes, which talks about him using no CGI, right?
right? Like the whole point of of Oppenheimer is the fact that it was shot on IMAX, that it was shot on film, and they did everything practical. And sure, there are some elements of some visual design
They had to
choices, but
ignite an atomic bomb, and it probably killed some people, but Christopher Nolan, he doesn't skimp out.
right. But you look at you look at the definition of visual effects, right? It's the process by which imagery is created or manipulated outside the context of a live action shot in filmmaking and video production. And then you see the different techniques of special effects. You get mo capture and animation and 3D modeling, rigging, rotoscoping,
Mhm.
mass moving, compositing, and they didn't do any of that for for Oppenheimer. It's all real, baby.
It's all explosions.
And that's why I don't trust audience scores, Mike.
I know, I know. These people aren't in your corner, Adam, and I wouldn't trust them either. But
But
I've felt that for 20 years. No one's been in my movie corner,
um but yeah, no, I don't see how. I mean, I think you can make an argument for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but
which
I
no
think
one did.
Spider-Man.
Yeah,
I think Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse definitely shouts out incredible. Um, and um, and not being obtuse and just trying to make content. I understand what they're saying with Oppenheimer and visual effects in terms of video editing and just color palette choice and
yeah.
just shots that they took, the angles. And yeah, it's really a work of art. And shouts out to Christopher Nolan. But I also want to say I am sad that Barbie didn't get any kind of votes. I know that there wasn't necessarily a lot of CGI or VFX, but just the set
Yeah.
design and costuming and yeah,
Right.
I think that was really a work of art. And just things that were real but also seemed plastic, but real, but plastic, but real, but plastic.
Mhm.
Like even the clothes looked plastic, but it was like still fit them and moved, but it still kind of seemed like it was. Yeah, they did an awesome job. I think Barbie in set design um definitely deserves
Right.
um
Yeah,
some
when
some
people
hype.
think visual effects, I think they think explosions and spaceships. How well does the people do explosions and spaceships? So if a movie doesn't have explosions and spaceships, they think there's no visual effects.
Right.
Now Oppenheimer had one really good explosion, so it got three. Yeah, but
um
yeah.
yeah, for sure. I mean, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, I think is,
But
yeah, takes
what
the cake.
baffles me is that
Mm.
one person saw the haunted mansion and said, "You know what? This it doesn't get better than this whole summer."
Yeah,
And
nothing has come out this summer.
yeah, which
Um,
makes me think, am I missing something? Like, is this movie like a sleeper hit that I just don't know? Or
and
is this the only movie they saw?
mm, I'm also shocked that Fast X didn't get any visual effects nods.
Right. Well, Transformers got two, and it's
Yeah,
like that's all it has going for it. Like, it's
right.
not going to win on script merits. It's going to win on just like a whole spaghetti buffet of visual effects.
Of of big giant robot go boom. Like,
Yes. You
um,
know,
yeah, I gotta say one of my lasting 3D memories is seeing Revenge of the Fallen in 3D.
hmm
Speaking of cash grabs,
So I think people, I was confused as to why I made this a topic, and then I reminded myself this is kind of like it goes with the hype question. Like, what do you think is the
Mm.
most deserving of cash? Um, and I wonder if people answered that question like that.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Because I think you have it. I think you have it kind of juxtaposed because the other question you asked was worst cash grab.
Yeah,
Um,
and that's like the phony guy who just came wanted to come out because he wanted a few extra dollars in his pocket.
yeah, yeah, I think that I think this is interesting because I don't think so. Barbie won with 5 votes, but I wouldn't necessarily say that it was like to me when you think cash grab, you think of a movie that was an established IP that's kind of setting about to create or like is part of a trilogy or is a part of a universe and they're doing um they're just relying on its IP and a very fat marketing budget and some famous actors on its name bill to kind of
Hmm.
pull it along, kind of like Fast X. Like to me, the winner of both of these should be Fast X. Um,
Or
or
maybe people took this like literally, like they looked at the gross and they said, "Well, obviously Barbie won. Like this isn't a
yeah,
vote. He's asking us a trivia question."
right, right. Um, but yeah, I mean, Barbie, Barbie is, I think, currently now trending as like the second highest grossing movie of the year. It's the first movie directed by a woman to um get to $1 billion, and yeah, you can't argue with results.
Hmm. I'm just sad it's not the Birds of Prey movie.
as the as the highest grossing female
Yeah,
movie.
yes.
Um,
Anyways, but yeah,
anyway,
this people took this one literally, or maybe some people thought Indiana Jones was the biggest cash grab,
mm,
and I would say that's true. They knew that they were going to get fans, and they didn't really have to try that. Well, I won't say try that hard, but they didn't really have to market the heck out of it to get people to fall back in love with Indiana Jones.
right, right, and
Yeah,
right, and I also think of like cash grab as like this. It's not necessary, right? Like nobody
yeah.
wanted a fifth Indiana Jones movie.
Hmm.
Um, but we got it anyways, and then they poured a bunch of money into it, and like they didn't make a lot of money.
Right. And I would say is if we're talking about successful cash grabs that deserve it, I think people voted correctly.
Yeah, for
Barbie
sure.
won with 5 votes. Indiana Jones with 2 votes. Little Mermaid 2 votes. Fast X 3 votes. Um, but then when we move on to worst cash grab, as in
Mm.
like this is an inappropriate sequel, no one's asking for this. Read the room, dummy. Um, and so that we get some fun answers.
I think there's a couple on here that don't belong. I think Barbie doesn't belong. TMNT does not belong. I don't think. And then I just don't really see why the Haunted Mansion is on there. I mean, maybe it's a little egregious. It's based on a ride, like you were saying,
Yeah,
but the fact that the Meg 2 got made
yeah.
like that, like why? It's just
Well,
to me it's the definition of a useless sequel. Nobody wants it, nobody asked for it, and nobody saw it, and it lost money, and it should, because it shouldn't have been made in the first place.
yeah. So I want to know like the backstory of this, and if it's based on the backstory, like the Meg 2, they can argue like there's a whole series of books that did really well, which is true. There's like 8 Meg's books out there. They're not translating well as movies, and I think that's what's going to stop them from making any sequels. But I can understand them greenlighting that. Barbie as a worst cash grab, even if Barbie was made in 2013 with Jennifer Lawrence and Vin Diesel as Ken, I think that would have done really well,
Right.
because Barbie is way overdue for a movie. Like,
Right. There's not another live action or even like a feature length movie. So
yeah,
I don't really see it as a cash grab as much as I see Fast 10 as a cash grab.
yeah, Fast 10 got 4 votes and is the winner of worst cash grab. But I am surprised that we're not like into the 5th reboot of a Barbie movie. Like
Mm.
Spider-Man got picked up in early 2000s, and that seemed obvious. Like why hasn't people been like begging for like the 5th Barbie reboot?
Mm.
Like, is this part of the Barbie verse?
Well, I think that's a part of it, right? Like, I don't think people were ready or had the ability to imagine what a live action, feature length movie would be, other than just like a G-rated kids movie, right?
Right. And I
There
think
just
they would have
wasn't,
stuck with that, or I thought they would have.
right? I don't see, I don't see how this movie could have been made before Greta Gerwig. Like, I don't think that there's a director that's imaginative that could have like done something like it. Like maybe I don't know, someone like I don't know. I can't think of anybody that
Well,
could
that's
maybe
because you're thinking of quality. I'm thinking of the cash grab value, where
sure,
in 2008 it comes out with Scarlett Johansson as Barbie. In
right,
2013, it's rebooted as Jennifer Lawrence, and it's
right,
about
but
her finding the perfect shoes. And in 2015, they bring back Jennifer Lawrence for the sequel because she finds out there's even better shoes for Barbie to have. And in my timeline, Greta Gerwig doesn't exist, and Barbie is like this cash grab.
yeah, I guess the closest I can get to is maybe Tim Burton.
Yeah,
I'd love like a '90s Tim Burton Barbie movie.
right. And the fact is, I'm so surprised that Greta Gerwig chose Barbie to do this experiment. Um,
Yeah,
that's my like take on this whole thing. Is like maybe like she could have chose anything as her vehicle and not necessarily needed to be Barbie,
mm,
though she had a lot of fun with it.
yeah, for sure.
But now it leads to expectations. I'm like, man, any toy movie could be the best movie of the year. I mean, are we going to get an amazing Hot Wheels movie? Are we going to get an amazing Mighty Max movie now?
Probably not.
No. The answer is no. So,
And I think that's the point in why studios are just totally whiffing. It's because it's not the source materials. It's not that you can just grab any Yahoo off the street. Like, you have to have a specific original vision for the project, and there's just no substitute for it.
right. Like, I've always dreamed that Christopher Nolan would pick up a G.I. Joe movie and bring in like realism, the realism he brought with Batman Begins, mixed with like subtle love for the series.
Right. Well, I mean that's really kind of what happened with his Batman trilogy, right? Like
Mhm.
he took something that up until that point was just purely camp, right? Like there was
Mhm.
like they,
Bat ice
all
skates.
right, like we like up until that point all we had was like, Spider-Man and Iron Man, the 2008 one, had just come out. So like, the superhero genre wasn't viewed seriously,
Right.
and Christopher Nolan flipped it on its head, and now we're reaping a decade of people trying to chase that high.
Right. And so Christopher Nolan can make a film out of anything in my childhood. That Gummy Bears cartoon, go at it. Yeah.
Care Bears.
Care Bears, oh my gosh, that would be amazing. The care was in us all along.
The whole time.
Cillian Murphy as Grumpy Bear. Uh, speaking of Grumpy Bear, this brings us to the final act, and that is Best Summer Movie of 2023. And I really think we always knew that this was going to be the answer.
Sure.
I think the minute I saw this movie, I'm like, people are going to declare this the winner.
Yeah. And I think a part of it is the population that we polled. I think if you ask
full of geeks.
I think if we ask a general population, I think the answer would be different, but I understand why this won.
Yeah. This is not an unworthy movie by any means.
By any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, you can see the love and care and time. I'll always have probably the unpopular opinion that it's not as fun and cuddly as the first one was. And in fact, I was watching the first one and how the first one starts with Spider-Man talking about his Christmas album, and I'm like, so silly. I love that. And then you go to this one, it starts with Haley Steinfeld saying, "I'm so depressed, my life is over. My best friend died." And it's like, okay, there's definitely a different feel in this one. But I can understand. But that doesn't take anything away from the movie. I still think it's a contender for best summer movie.
Sure, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I totally can see why this won. I think it's I think that this movie and the one before it are kind of they're doing what Christopher Nolan's trilogy did now. I think it's really elevating the superhero movie into a realm that it's never been before, and I think it's it deserves all the praise and accolades I think that are coming its way, and certainly within our community. I can't, I don't blame them for picking this and having this win, because I don't see how it could how you would expect the population that we polled to have picked anything else.
Right. And honestly, people thought this Spider-Man was amazing because it brought in hip hop culture, and it brought the Spider-Man a fresh take, a more diverse take. But I wouldn't even say this is my favorite animated feature to include hip hop culture. I would say Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, was a lot more fun in that respect. But
George.
Only me and Rotten Tomatoes will agree with that. Everyone else, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse with eight votes, and tied for third is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Indiana Jones, Dial of Destiny, Oppenheimer. And the reason I included Guardians of the Galaxy is probably because I wanted people to have to fight between Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse and Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
But I don't think anyone was tempted by that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I really do think it's indicative of just the kind of the old versus new, right? I think Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is definitely and I don't know if you would argue this point, but I do think it's among the better of all the Marvel movies, the live action ones. I think it's very
It
indicative.
goes down much smoother than some other ones.
for sure. But at the same time, like I even though as good as it is, I still do think it's just like I don't think it's as good in terms of like quality because because of the fatigue, and I think it's just like old media, right? Like I don't think it's I don't think it's new. I don't think it's fresh anymore. I think the
Right.
formula is a little stale, and I really do think that the animation and the story and the essence of the characters in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is a really awesome take on superheroes that I really enjoy. I think it's comic accurate. I think it's the people that
Right.
are making the Spider-Verse movie. It really does feel like they care about the source material. Um and the characters feel real and they have real problems and they're not just, you know, good-looking 50-year-olds pretending to be good-looking 30-year-olds. Um
All right, Paul Rudd.
and I would say the same thing with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right? Like I think the people that made that movie, they you can tell that they loved what they were working on.
Oh yeah, Seth Rogen is the way he gushes about it makes me think that he's the biggest geek of all, and I love the fact that he you know that he poured his love into this.
Right.
When
Like
I when I when I
mm,
well just this when I think of directors
yeah.
doing these summer movies, I think these guys like these older 50-year-olds like with the cigarettes and the cigarette holders being like, oh, okay, Chris Pratt, you stand here.
Right. Right. And yeah, there's no the love is gone
Hmm.
and I think the audiences can tell and don't get me wrong, I think Gunn really did love the project that he was working on.
Yeah, I
I
can't
don't
speak ill of him.
um but I do think that he made that movie with the idea that he was one foot out the door and um like
That
while I
mo-
think it was and while I think the movie was really good, it definitely didn't feel like it was 100% like the best he could do, you know?
yeah, that movie was like his resume for the DC crowd, being like, okay, all right, we know what you're capable of. Come on over.
Right? They're like he's like, "Look, if I can get it's like look, if I can get Disney to let me say the F word, think of all the things I can do for you, DC."
Ooh, swoon. Uh,
Right.
but
And
yeah,
yeah. And I will say this about James Gunn and all his projects. They are his projects first and the source material second.
right.
And yeah, so like I don't begrudge him for that. Like that's it's his right as an artist. And I think he generally has more hits than misses, but
Hmm.
um I also do think at the same time that like he just doesn't have the same level of love and respect for the source material like we do like the people that make Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles did.
Hmm. So, best summer movies. We're talking about 13 movies
Mm.
that we think deserve the, you know, almost an Oscar. Well, wouldn't
A
you know it?
Summie.
Yeah, a Summie. Wouldn't you know it? Someone really liked the Haunted Mansion, which again, begs so many questions.
Right.
Is
Did
it?
you see anything else this summer?
Yes. And if you did, what's in this movie that you love so much, and can I have it?
Right.
Because if this made you so happy, if this made you say, screw all the other movies, um, then what is it? Please tell us.
Right.
Maybe
Right. And
Rosario Dawson. She gives out her phone number. Like,
right.
right?
Uh, somebody tell me, please.
Yeah. And someone chose. There's one vote for Rise of the Beasts, which
Was that
I
you,
mean,
Mike?
I got excited. I haven't seen the movie. I got excited that they were going to do Beast Wars. Not too long ago, Adam, we were doing a podcast about how Beast Wars is the best Transformers series ever made.
It's true.
And I believed it.
No,
And
I believe you.
I don't think Rise of the Beasts, like without seeing it, I don't think they captured what we saw in 1995, 96.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Something like that. And again, I think it just speaks to like the reverence, right, for the source material. And I'm not expecting like a one for one remake. I think that's ridiculous. But when Peter Jackson made the original Lord of the Rings trilogy, he loved the source material, and you could just feel that.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, like I think a lot of people they don't have that same sort of love and respect for the source.
Right. And funny thing about that is people who love the book source material hate Peter Jackson. So,
which is incredible to me because and I again I think this is like a perspective thing, and because they have that expectation that it's supposed to be this one for one thing, but like it's just a fundamentally different medium. And I think adaptation and adapting things from one art form to another is a skill
mhm,
in and of itself, and people who do it well you know are ones that insert their own vision to it, and I think that's
right.
important.
Yeah. Well, I mean, their expectations were probably J.R.R. Tolkien needs to come back from the dead and consult on this movie.
Right. And I mean, maybe this is an unpopular opinion, but I really do think J.R.R. Tolkien would really love the Peter Jackson's perspective of it, because um while I don't necessarily think that he got everything right word for word, but I do think he captures the spirit of what makes Lord of the Rings so great and so inspiring. And that's why I think Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is a perfect summer movie to me, because I think it captures everything that is you want from a summer movie, right? Something that you can take your family to,
Hmm.
something that'll give you the oohs and the ahs, something that's a visual spectacle, something that makes you think, something that'll kill 2 hours so you can sit in some nice air conditioning.
That's
And
what I love.
and yeah, right.
Hmm.
And yeah, so that's why I think it's like such a perfect summer movie, because it ticks all those boxes for me, right?
Right.
When I think of a summer movie, that's what I think of.
It's the perfect balance between being smart and cleverly made, but
Mhm.
also being a pow whiz bang shoot explosion fest.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And I'm
Totally
kind of
agree.
kicking myself. My brother-in-law,
Mm.
he he bought this thing for my mother-in-law called an EV pad, which basically shows you all of China's and Japan's like TV channels and movie options.
Mm.
And I got to flip through it, and I could have seen Across the Spider Verse, with the Mandarin captions, um, but in English, and I didn't. Instead, I saw, um, what did I see? I saw Black Clover on Netflix.
Was it worth it?
Black Clover is kind of a cluster of a lot of things.
Yeah, for sure.
Hmm. But
But
anyways,
yeah.
so now,
Man.
to accept this award for best summer movie, Shamik Moore.
Yeah, even though we just trashed you a little bit earlier.
Yeah. Oops.
Is that how award shows work though, right?
Right. We're like Jack Black. It's just a joke.
It's just a joke, man. Uh Oh boy. Well, man, Mike, I feel like this podcast was a whole summer in the making, which it literally was.
Right. I mean,
And
we're so far behind. Like, we were supposed to talk about Oppenheimer, how it changed the industry, Barbie, how it changed the industry. And we're just bringing these things up now.
yeah, right, right. But I think enough and a lot has been said just in the sphere of things about Barbie and Oppenheimer and how transcendental all these movies are, and how these are this was a once in a century sort of experience. And I agree, but also at the same time, I don't think that there's a lot of people talking about um summer movies like we are right now, and
Right.
what that
No
looks
one
like.
talks about them as a worthy unit.
Right, exactly. So, maybe we didn't talk about what's trending and what's popular, but I still think what we talked about today was very important nonetheless.
Yeah. Someone's going to walk out and say, I feel smarter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully it's us.
Yes. Oh, gosh. So that's the summer movies. And maybe next year when we do the second annual Summies Awards, we're going to
Yeah.
be talking about Zack Snyder's Polly Pocket and how it changed the industry once again in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, how it bombed, um, and The Flash 2, directed by
Right,
James Gunn,
right,
surprisingly good.
right.
Who knows?
Right. And I mean, this is probably something we should have said at the start of the show, but we support all the actors and the writers and people on strike right now trying to get a fair wage. So hopefully next summer we can talk about this again. And the we take a lot of this stuff sort of for granted, all the hard work that people like the animators on Across the Spider-Verse had to put in to make something that we enjoy. So this is our thank you to the people in the industry. And yeah, I hope that this art is around for the long haul. And I can't wait for movies to get back, and I hope that next summer we can have even more exciting summer movies to talk about.
Yes. I think this tradition needs to continue.
Yeah.
And I really do hope that if they don't come back, these writers, we're not going to have anything to talk about. And we're going to have to do another Charlize Theron bio.
I love that. I mean, give us. I love these. I love the biopics.
Yes.
But yeah, maybe next episode. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see what we talk about. But um, yeah, I feel like this was the perfect capstone to a summer that was equally filled with disappointing movies, but really awesome, incredible movies nonetheless.
Hmm. So join us next week when we talk about the top 3 Nolan villains that we think deserve Oscars. It's funny because there's only 3. Right. Anyways, I've been Mike,
I'm Adam.
and thank you for watching Film Logic
Yes.
or listening.